Okay, so now we're ready to install the print heads. Now some machines, when you receive them, they may have these cables already attached to the headboard. If they do, please just remove them because we've actually got the head cable, the cables connected to the heads already. So if you do have, if they do look like this and you've got 8 of them up here, just get them and pull them directly out. Don't twist them or anything, but once you do take them out, just make sure these cards are nice and firmly back in place. So when you receive your head, you're going to receive the head with the cables already pre-attached. On top of that, we've also labeled the heads to make things really easy. You'll see there, that's one, the green is for the head side and the red is for the board side. So the green says there, top left, bottom left, top right, bottom right. So they'll be pre-attached. Then the board side says front left, back left, and so on. So what we're going to do firstly is we're going to install the colour head. Now the colour head is going to go in on the back of the board like that. Now when you put it in, you want to make sure you don't snag the cables. It is quite a tight fit, so you need to sort of get it right. And you'll see that they you want to make sure, so when you put the head in, that the QR code on this cable on the head is over on the bottom right hand side. So if you've got it around the wrong way, that would be at the back, which you'll know is correct. So as long as you've got that QR code in the front right, you know you're in the right spot. Then what you want to do is you need to push it down reasonably firmly, and then we're going to put 3 screws in. So there's a screw bottom right, bottom left, back left. There's no back right screw, only 3 screws. So then we get our screws, and we want to get them in position, and we need to just let me fix this up, and then we need to push down in the center to get it nice and even, and then start screwing the bottom right one there. Now, important thing is don't over tighten them. So when you get to the end, just screw them back a couple of turns, and then we're going to go to the opposite side. This is so we get it in nice and evenly. So now we're going to go to the back side, and we're going to now screw that in. Now it may be a little hard to get in, so we can actually unattach that part and use it like this, which makes us get better access. So now I've screwed that in nice and firmly. Now I'll come back to the other vertical and I'll screw that one in firmly. You should feel that nice and firm in place. And then we'll get the last one. We can put our handle back on for this one. And we do the front left, sorry. Put that back in, and now we're sweet. Okay, so that's all there is in installing the head. Just make sure it's nice and even. Feels good. There's no slop or anything, but make sure they're nice and tight. Start with that, go the opposite, and then come to that one. That'll ensure it's nice and square. So the color head goes to the left hand board, and the white head will go to the right hand side. So what we want to do now is start with any one, really. It doesn't really matter, but probably the front is the best to do. So find the one that says front right. So we get that one and we put that in, we line it up and push it directly down. Then we get the one that says back right. Again, we get it in and we push it directly down. Now, the writing will always be on the outside, and the blank parts, the non-writing sides, will always face in the middle. So it should be pretty obvious too, because the pins will line up with the contact areas. But just to be safe, writing on the outside, blank on the inside. Now let's go to the left side. We find the one that says front. We go to the front. We push that in like so. Make sure that one says back left, which it is. And then we're going to go line that one up and we push it directly down. Now once you've got them in, just go around to each one and just make sure that they're nice tight connection, and which they are. Now what we want to do is do exactly the same thing for the front head. And so it's exactly the same process. Put the front one in and do exactly the same thing, and then attach them to the corresponding board, which will be the right hand side this time, but it is exactly the same. Follow the labeling, and then we're right. So what we'll do firstly though, before we start and do this one, we'll get all this one set up in place. So as I said before, these are for the white because it's connected to this canister. So we need to put them aside at this point. And then what we want to do is we want to put these in the correct order. Now on the for the correct order for this one, it will be K, which is black, cyan, magenta and yellow. So we find black and we just make sure that they don't get tangled. So we find our black one, and then we put that into that position and we push down. Nice tight fit. Then we get our cyan and we're going to do exactly the same thing. We get that and we're going to put that directly in there. And then we get our magenta and we put that directly in there. And then we get our yellow and we put it directly into there. Now the reason we do this one first before we actually put the white in is that if we do the white, we've got all these other tubes in place, it can become quite hard to navigate around. So we'll look after doing the color first, and then we'll look at worrying about the white a bit later. That's this video. We'll start a new video about the next step for inking up the color head. So we've got our color head in. So the next part will be actually filling and using the and syringing the dampers to sort of promote the ink through the system. Because this is a new machine and going out to field, I actually don't want to actually put the physical ink in, but when you get to this stage, we will be actually talking through you step by step on a live video stream, a part of the installation. So we'll go through it, but we will be actually doing this live with you anyway, so don't need to fret. But what we would do at this point here, we've got our head in, and at this point too, it'll be exactly like this. We don't want you to install the next head just yet. We want to actually ink this one in up and syringe it to get this one all connected properly before we start the white one. So once we have this set up into this position here, we'll turn around to the back, and this is the time that we're going to actually undo our ink, and we're going to put in maybe half a litre of each colour. At this point here, we haven't turned the machine on, so at this point there's no turning on of the machine. So fill up your colours, yellow, magenta, cyan and K, but don't fill your white up at this point. We do that once we've got the white head installed. We don't want to put any white through at this point. So go ahead and put your yellow, magenta, cyan, K in, put your lids back on. Okay, so once we've got to that position there, we'll come back round to the front. Okay, so this is an important step. What we want to do at this point here, this is we've put the inks in the back of our CMYK inks into our container, and this is where we could have some spillage. We want to try and make sure we don't have any spill. So at this point here, I want you just to sort of layer your print head with protective cloths so that we don't get any ink spillage, and if we do, the cloths will mop it all up. So let's just put these down for now. Okay, so the ink's in the back of the back of the ink canisters, and these are the dampers that provide the head with the ink. So they're a supply and demand sort of system. They work under suction and under pressure. So just make sure that you do have your KCMY in that order, because we've got to make sure that's correct. Then what we're going to do is we're going to take out the yellow. We'll start with the yellow, and then what we do is we hang on to the damper just with the sides. Now, as you can see here, this is actually very flimsy, and that's what causes the vacuum and supply. If I press on this little button here, that's the suction of the damper. It's very, very brittle and very easy to break. So don't touch the front, only touch the sides. So what we're going to do now is we're going to force the ink from the containers at the back through to the damper. So the way we do that is we get a syringe, which you will have supplied. You'll get the syringe and you'll place it into the stopper of the damper. Hold it in one hand, so you got your 2 fingers on the damper and then a couple of fingers on your syringe, and then from there you pull the syringe, and then you might need to do this 2 or 3 times, but eventually what will happen is you'll see the ink flow all the way through the ink line, and you'll see the ink come into here and then enter the damper, and then what will happen is that you'll pour the ink through into this canister. When that ink starts to enter the canister, it's now time to, it's now been primed and ready to put back onto the print head. So once you see the ink enter into here, you can pull the syringe out carefully. Now, the ink won't come out unless you bump it, but it's quite easy to bump because you're working into a small space. So what you want to do is you want to carefully pick it up with the right side and just make sure that your tube is on the right side. As you can see, it's got a big gap there and a small gap there. It's actually on the small side, so we need to actually turn that around like that so that it's on the small side. And then what we need to do is you need to carefully put it back into place. Now you want to really be careful, line it straight up over top of the existing one, and then we just want to push straight down. Now it is very easy to spill ink at this moment, but if you do have your cloths around, it makes life a lot easier. And so we're just going to repeat that process for each one. We take out the next one, and if it's easier for you, you can actually also take out the 2 spare ones to the side to give you a little bit more room, which is not a bad idea. And you can even do that for the very first one as well if you want to take the other ones out first. So let's just maybe do that for this one. We'll put them aside. Gives you a little bit more room when you're entering. So